Elite Facts presents
Spot the Difference number 12.
15.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new edition of Spot the Difference. In this video, we'll be looking at 15 Spot the Difference puzzles. The two images will be shown side by side and they'll stay up temporarily, and then we'll move on to the answers. There are 5 differences in each puzzle. Feel free to pause at any time to get a better look, and good luck. You get 1 point for each correct answer, so keep a tally in your head and let us know how you did in the comments section. We've got 15 rounds in total, so let's begin. First up, we have 3 staples of British TV, all in one image: Doctor Who, Sherlock, and of course, Only Fools and Horses. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll notice is that the small image of Peter Capaldi's coat has changed from red to blue. Next up, you can see in the lower image that the Yakuza have returned and taken poor old Watson's hand. Next up, once again on the lower portion of the image, you can see that on the Only Fools and Horses side that someone has stolen Rodney's tie. Something tells me that Del Boy had something to do with it. Next, you can see just above Big Capaldi's shoulder that the TARDIS has an extra window on the side. And finally, you can see that the large image of Sherlock has more of a fringe. Did you catch all the changes?
14.
Next up, we have a classic British comedy, Fawlty Towers. If you can't tell, today's theme seems like it's going to be British television. Anyway, can you spot all the differences? First off, you may notice that Basil Fawlty is missing one of his distinguishing features. If you couldn't guess, he's missing his mustache, and quite frankly, John Cleese without a mustache is terrifying. Next, you'll notice that the woman on the right is missing the feather off of her jacket's lapel. Next up, you can see that this DVD is a ripoff, as it's trying to con you out of an extra DVD, as it's only offering you 2 discs instead of 3 discs. Next, you can see the chimney on the house in the background is missing an extra bit of detail. And finally, in almost the same area, you can see that a window towards the left of the image is missing a bit of detail on the frame. Did you spot them all? Excuse us while we try to get the horrific image of John Cleese without a mustache out of our minds.
13.
Next up, we have possibly the most boring game show on right now in the UK, Pointless. We can't wait for British viewers to go off and tell us it's the best game show ever, but whatever. Can you spot all the differences? First change you may notice instantly is that the bottom circle on the board has the number 42 on it. Next, you can see the word Frambusa has been removed from the board. Next, you can see that the show isn't high quality at all, as one of the spotlights on the floor isn't working. Next, you can see that the purple part of the background set is much larger, as it's now covering the gap between the purple object and the bar above it. And finally, the Yakuza strike again, as they've taken the contestant's hand. Yakuza, can you just chill for 5 minutes without taking people's limbs? Anyway, did you spot all the differences?
12.
Next up, we have one of the most recognizable pubs on British television, the Rovers Return from Coronation Street. Can you spot all the changes? First thing you might notice right off the bat is the sign, as it says Rover Return instead of Rovers Return. Next, you can see the sign above the pub's sign is now missing. Next, you can see that the chimney towards the right of the image is now missing. Next, you can see that the window of the pub highlighted shows that the pattern usually present on it is now missing. And finally, towards the doorway of the building, you can see that an extra brick has been colored white. Did you spot them all?
11.
Next up, we have a promo image for what is admittedly a fantastic British crime drama, Broadchurch. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll notice right off the bat is the random woman in the background. Next, you can see that the title of the show has changed to Road Church. Maybe this is the spin-off to Roadhouse? Next, you can see that the police tape Olivia Colman is holding is much shorter than the original image. Next, you can see that David Tennant's hair is much more messy in the changed version than it is in the original. And finally, you can see that Olivia Colman's name is spelled differently. Did you spot them all?
10,
Next up, we have a promo image for the show Atlantis. Can you spot all the differences? Hey, that doesn't belong there. Wrong show, damn it. Next, you can see that the guy on the left is now wearing a toupee. He's not fooling anyone. Next, you can see that the right wrist guard is missing. And you can see a bird in the sky in the background. And finally, you can see, well, not really because it's covered by a circle's outline, that toupee guy is missing the blood off of his cheek. Did you spot them all?
9,
Next up, we have long-running British drama show Casualty. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll probably notice is that the main character in the middle now has a massive beard. We know some surgeons have beards, but that's pretty crazy. Next, you can see the person towards the left of the image doesn't have his glasses on, or any eyebrows. Okay, moving on. Next, you can see that the same person towards the left of the image is also missing half of his stethoscope. Now that's just vandalism. Next, you can see that the man furthest to the right is also missing half of his stethoscope. Okay, no, this hospital is skimping on supplies. I'm almost certain of it. And finally, you can see the woman farthest to the left is missing a thumb. Did you spot all the differences?
8,
Next up, we have Andy and Lou, a now classic British comedy, Little Britain, which in all brutal honesty isn't that funny. Sorry, Little Britain fans. Anyway, can you spot all the differences? Okay, so first up, we can see that Lou has lost his watch. Either that or someone stole it. Next, you can see that Andy is now missing his glasses and now looks like something out of The Hills Have Eyes. Next, you can see that Lou's mouth is now shut rather than showing a disturbing toothy smile. Okay, who took the brake off of Andy's chain? And finally, you can see that the stripes on Lou's pants are longer. Did you spot all the differences?
7,
Next, we have a screenshot from an episode of The Graham Norton Show. First thing you'll notice is that Graham Norton is missing a hand, and we're not going to make any more Yakuza jokes today. Next, you can see that Jimmy Carr's jacket is open now rather than being closed. Okay, now you're just making the Yakuza jokes too easy. We can't resist. As you can see, Matt Smith is now missing an ear. Next, you can see that one of the glasses of water on the table is now missing. And finally, you can see that towards the top right of the image, the background set has an extra bit of detail. Did you spot all the differences?
6,
Next up, we have our second Doctor Who image of the video. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll notice is that once again the liner of his jacket has changed. This time it's changed from blue to red. Next, you can see that the gun on the Dalek is now missing. Next up, you can see that the pom-pom on top of Matt Lucas's hat is gone. Next, you can see that the patch on Bill Potts' jacket has changed from WOW to BAM. And finally, oh god, no matter who it is, having no eyebrows is just too damn weird. Did you spot them all?
5,
Next up, we have some promotional material for Downton Abbey. Can you spot all the differences? We're not going to sugarcoat it. We don't know any of these characters' names. First thing you may have noticed is that the chair towards the left of the image is missing a leg. Next up, you can see that the servant in the middle of the image is wearing a black bow tie instead of a white one. Next, you can see that one of the windows in the background now doesn't have any curtains hung up. Next, you can see that the necklace of the woman towards the right of the image is now missing. And finally, you can see the color of the young kid's shirt in the middle is now completely striped. Did you spot them all?
4,
Next up, we have a scene from Merlin. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you might notice is that Merlin's scarf has changed from red to green. Next, you can see that King Arthur's armor is missing a bit of detail on his arm. Next, you can see that Merlin is missing a thumb. You can also see that Merlin now has an extra strap on his boot. And finally, you can see that King Arthur's wrist now has an extra strap on it. Did you spot them all?
3,
Next up, we have a promo image for the show Sherlock. Can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll probably notice is that there's 2 birds in the background now instead of 1. Next, you can see that the large crane in the background has been removed from the image. Next, you can see that the buttonhole on Sherlock's jacket has been removed. Next, you can see that there's 3 cranes now towards the right of the image. And finally, you can see that Watson only has 3 fingers instead of 4. I'm not going there with the Yakuza joke again. Did you spot them all that time?
2,
Next up, we have another Doctor Who picture. Are you even surprised? Shut up, it's a good show, damn it. Anyway, can you spot all the differences here? First thing you'll notice dead center of the image is that Capaldi's coat has changed from red to blue. Next, you can see that Clara Oswald is missing her belt. Next, you can see that the sign on the TARDIS says Free Public instead of Free, Box Used of Public. Next, you can see that Big Ben has an extra bit of added detail towards where the actual clock is. And finally, you can see that one of the towers in the back is taller than the original photo.
1,
And finally, we have the Devil's Lair. Sorry, we mean the BBC. Don't give us that look. Most British broadcasting networks are evil in some way. Anyway, can you spot all the differences? First thing you'll notice is that the second B in the logo is missing a bit of detail. Next thing you can see is that the logo in the background is now CBBC instead of BBC. Next thing you'll see is that this woman is a witch. She just disappeared into thin air. Next thing you can see is that a piece of the metal frame of the sign is now missing. And finally, you can see that one of the windows has been removed from the image. Well, that's the end of this episode of Spot the Difference. Once again, let us know how well you did in the comments below. And thanks for spotting by.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.